As you can see from the outside, we have one main camera at the top, and then we have three smaller cameras, complementary cameras at the bottom. First, I want to talk about one of those complementary cameras, the ultra-wide. As you can see, the pictures look very decent. There's nothing that calls my attention in a negative way, but I have to say that once you zoom in, you can notice that the camera lacks a little bit of detail. So it's kind of like a 50-50 with this camera, because although it gives you a good looking overall picture, I also know some of you are going to want to, zoom in on the detail, and that's where this camera lacks a little. Although, being fair, it's not something especially concerning. It's not ugly, it doesn't look bad. It's just that I've seen other cameras have a little bit more detail when you zoom in. That being said, I especially like the video performance. I don't really know why, but the ultra-wide camera takes better video than any of the other three cameras. And this is mainly because it's very stable. In the video you're watching, I was walking with the phone in one hand and there's no significant wobble. The camera can also adjust the lighting conditions very fast in a smooth, imperceptible way. It doesn't feel chunky or laggy. This doesn't really make a lot of sense because you would think the main camera, the one at the top, should be the best at everything. But from my experience, and maybe this is not for everybody, the best video on the phone is taken with the ultra-wide. So, remember when you buy the phone and you're gonna use it for video, that if you can, you should use the ultra-wide. At nighttime, we have sort of an exaggeration of what happens with daytime pictures, where the overall picture looks good, but when we zoom in, there's a clear lack of detail and even some noise. Now I want to see how the camera app behaves in real time and how it adjusts to different lighting conditions. Then we have the main camera, which has 48 megapixels and it's technically and practically the best camera on the phone. You can definitely notice an improvement in definition, detail, and color over the ultra-wide. And yeah, although I said video is a little bit better on the ultra-wide, don't get me wrong. This one, the main one, is clearly the best camera on the phone, and it's the one you should use most of the time. I know some of you want to buy this phone, but are a little bit concerned with the camera quality. This main camera is good enough, trust me. As you can see in the AirPods picture, comparing it to the ultra-wide camera, there's a lot more detail. And this also applies to video. It works as well as you would expect from a phone this price. At night, the camera does a way better job than the ultra-wide. Zooming in, there's less noise, more detail, and of course, if I show you the same picture taken with the main camera and the ultra-wide, you can definitely tell. Here is the app working in real time. This is actually one of the things that surprised me about this camera. It's very fast. It barely needs time to adjust and refocus. I'm sure you know that annoying feeling when you want to take a picture and you want to take it fast, but the camera doesn't work right. It doesn't let you focus and you miss the shot. Well, that's not going to happen with this camera. Now, going back to the complementary cameras, we have a zoom lens, which is 2 megapixels and it's very bad. The pictures look artificially completed, I'm assuming because it's only 2 megapixels, it's a very small sensor, so they have to fill in the gaps using post-processing. Obviously, if we zoom in, there's no detail, everything is grainy and blurry. Fun fact, as you can see here, if you want a zoomed-in picture, you can always get better results using the main wide-angle camera and cropping the picture than using the dedicated zoom lens. I know a lot of you are gonna think this is a problem, but no, this is very, very common. When you have a budget phone, you should never expect it to have more than 2 good cameras. In this case, the good cameras are the main one and the ultra-wide one. So every other camera, in this case there's 2 more cameras, they're not going to be good. They're 2 megapixels each. We're gonna talk about the last one now, and Yeah, this is very common. At night, like with the other cameras, we have an exaggeration of what happens during the day. If we have a simple object that doesn't require a lot of processing, the picture looks fine. But if we take a picture at a plant that has a lot of branches and small leaves, and obviously needs a lot of post-processing, the picture just gets ruined. Then, as you can see, we have probably the worst part of the zoom lens: video. I guess this is how the camera really looks without the post-processing applied in the pictures. And I don't really have much more to say about it. It just looks bad. If you buy this phone, use the ultra-wide camera for video, of course, and the main camera for video. Never do video with the zoom lens. Performance on the camera app is fine though, although a little bit slower than the main lens. As I said earlier, this is a marketing thing. This is not a real camera meant to be used. As I said, you can take better pictures with the main camera, cropping them a little bit, than with the zoom lens. Never use this camera. Don't think about it as a real thing. Just, it's there for marketing, for people to say, oh, it has 4 cameras, it's a better phone. And then we have the macro lens, to capture a lot of detail and very small things. It's also 2 megapixels, but I would not call it a bad camera. Because, well, yeah, this is not a good camera. It's technically speaking a bad camera, but it's also not meant to be used. It's not needed. It's pretty much a toy where you can play with it, you know, taking pictures to a blanket, taking pictures to a coin, and it's fun because they look very detailed. And, well, sometimes you probably are going to need it for something, and that time, it's good to have. Finally, of course, we have the selfie camera, which although everybody says it's not as good as it could, I actually think it's great. The pictures I've taken look detailed, and the colors and lighting are far better than the ones on the crappy zoom lens. So finally, all of this being said, I think this camera has a very decent ultra-wide camera, especially for video, a very good main camera for both pictures and video, and a macro lens to play with as a bonus. Forget about the zoom lens. Once again, it doesn't exist. And by the way, for those interested in getting the phone right now, if you hurry, you can actually get it with a small discount on Amazon. You'll find a direct link in the description. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.